Hey everyone, this is Luke Johnson for KnowYourPoker. Today we're going to be reviewing my top 10 biggest hands I've ever played of online. Disclaimer ahead of time, some of these hands you're going to see today are not very pretty, so go easy on me in the comments. Perhaps some of these are going to be a painful review for me as well after so many years. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, let's jump into this. Hand number 10, the biggest hand I've ever played of online poker. Perhaps is one of the most controversial you'll see today as well, so I wonder what you guys think. Okay, so we're sitting on the button with King 6 suited, cutoff opens, we go with a 3-bet. If you're not aware already, I play a very small 3-bet in position. We're playing 10 KNL here, I make it 5 and a few blinds. Cutoff behind me, sorry, small blind behind me goes with the cold 4. Small blind was a recreational. Admittedly now I forget my reads on them, at least I forget my precise reads. I remember that they're a splashy player, but it's important to discern how somebody is splashing around, especially with a recreational player. There's lots of ways to splash around. Are they aggressive or are they a whale, for example? I do forget exactly how they were splashy, but let's just kind of move forward knowing that they are some kind of splashy recreational. Two players fold and I elect to continue, which is pretty loose, but King 6 suited is always like the magic solver hand. We're pretty deep here, 190 effective, and I'm in position versus a weaker player. So I feel like the call is going to be okay here. We get pretty good odds. He's made it pretty small with the cold 4. I believe he's splashy enough to not only run into aces and kings here. Seeing a flop of King 4-3 rainbow, pretty good start, although you can see the problem already with calling this hand is that even on a flop like this, we still need to proceed with caution. So we're never really out of the woods unless we flop trips or something. So yeah, we get c-bet into, unsurprisingly, for about, it's somewhere north of 20% and shy of 25. So we get pretty good odds. You could argue some kind of fancy raise here to kind of shut down the action, but I think for the most part against a recreational who is splashy, we don't want to raise them out of being splashy with a bunch of hands like ace-jack, ace-queen, maybe even hands like ace-5 and 10-9 suited. Admittedly, if you raise here, small ace-5 suited would be a call, but a recreational might just elect to fold it, and definitely 10-9 suited could just be in there that we don't want to raise out. So I elect with the standard option and call. Turn, they c-bet for a pretty modest amount here. It's about 60% pot, which is a little bit small when you consider, like the hands we're worried about here are just obviously the aces and ace-king, and maybe kings and maybe jacks, depending how they played the hand. So all of those hands are super strong, and you would expect them to size up a bit more than B60 here. Anyway, we have nothing to do but call, obviously, hoping for a miracle 6. Even a king is not really amazing. We call, and river is a 9, which is pretty much blank, all things considered, and they do elect to shove. My thoughts, I remember in game, obviously I forget exactly what I was thinking, but I'm pretty sure I was thinking that their flop and turn sizings were pretty small, and you have to remember they're a recreational. A regular could take a line like this and be completely uncapped. They could even go smaller on the flop potentially and be uncapped. A recreational though is a bit more of a hand sizer. So like the B21 or whatever it was, and then B60 on the turn, I remember thinking was quite modest into now a shove. I didn't think they would go for the full shove here with a hand like King Queen or King 10. I felt like they were just telling me they had Ace King plus, and I wasn't really putting them on Ace King given the line. Even the cold 4-bet pre-flop was pretty small. If they had aces or Ace King, they might size up. So I remember just thinking everywhere was pretty small with the sizings, and now they decided to go for the full amount of 135 or 4 big blinds. And for that reason, I did just end up flicking in the call. Firstly, there is always kind of a spaz factor against a recreational. They might just show me some random hand they're not supposed to have ever. And secondly, I didn't think they had those good hands, like I said. So I do elect to call, and they show me the very bad news of King 9 suited, which makes complete sense. They did have a hand they're not supposed to have pre-flop, and then on the flop and turn, they had an okay hand that wasn't great, so they went with quite a small sizing on the flop. Modest middling sizing on the turn. Again, I was expecting a bit bigger from aces and ace king, and obviously spike in the 2-pair. I did say that 9 was a blank, turned out it wasn't a blank. So yeah, it makes sense. Wouldn't be surprised if we see like some Queen 10 here that again shouldn't arrive, but if we do give him King 9, perhaps we give him a few other hands he's not supposed to have, like maybe Ace 8, Ace 7, Ace 5, Ace 6, which, you know, are not cold 4-bets, but he might find. In fact, Ace 8 would probably perform better than King 9 suited. So overall, going back in time, would I change my decision anywhere? I probably wouldn't. I stick by my read that a recreational player, or a splashy recreational player, is probably going to show me enough hands I need to see everywhere in the hand, pre-flop, flop, turn, river, to make all my calls profitable. Admittedly, it's not gone well this time, but hey, that's poker. That is my 10th biggest hand of online poker. Number 9, we are playing again on GG Poker. In fact, I think all of these hands are on GG just because of the action that you had at high stakes at the VIP tables until they removed them, unfortunately. We min open the middle position. That's how I know this hand was some time ago now, because I now open 2.25. Used to min open. We get a call from a regular. This is Cole Swannack, or Top Cat on Stars. I won't say his WPN name in case he wants to keep it a secret, but yeah, he's quite a well-known, long-time high-stakes player. Pretty good player. He checks. We bet 2/3. This is not a range bet, as you might imagine, and yeah, just kind of mixing this one in. Features quite well as a bet here with the backdoors and obviously top pairs, so I think this one works really well for a bunch of different purposes. Even if we are behind, we've got a lot of backdoor outs, and if we are ahead, we can put a good amount of money in confidently with some backup and future streets. So I like it. He calls this as B70. Turn, we spike 2 pairs, and we go ahead and c-bet for the full pot. I think this is a good sizing here. Yes, there is a straight completing. However, it's only one straight. Admittedly, he should have 10-8 offsuit given my mid-open pre-flop, which is very much in his range and not mine. However, I have kind of stated my claim on the flop that I've got a pretty good hand at a top pair or better, so I don't really like the idea of B70. And I'm not a sizing mixer where I'm going to have 70 and overbet, or like a 2/3 sizing and overbet sizing. So with just one sizing, I elect for a pop bet, which I like in hindsight. We get the bad news of a check raise. This is around 70% check raise, give or take. Actually, I think it is 70 because I'm getting 29% pot odds. Obviously, that was not the ideal result here of getting raised, especially when he probably has 16 combos of 8-10, maybe minus a few with the pre-flop and flop call. But yeah, he's going to have 14 of 16 combos here. So yeah, I'm not thrilled by getting raised at all. We do block pocket nines, and we do potentially chop with jack 9. So there is that, and obviously there's a lot of combo draws as well. There's like 8x, 10x, and king 10 of spades and things. So definitely the bluffs are there, and I can potentially value chop, but unblocking all of the 10-8 combos is definitely a worry. Anyway, we definitely can't do anything but call here. Shoving would be lunacy in my mind, just because we unblock all of those straight combos, and the flush draws or the combo draws that we're expecting to see as a bluff probably are not firing the river either. So I think we can play pretty easily in position here, moving into the river. So we do go ahead and call, and on the river we do get the miracle 9 here, only losing to pocket jacks, which I don't expect in his line, and anyway we block that. He could have pocket jacks pre-flop with a call given the positions. He unsurprisingly checks, which he's going to do with a lot of his range here, and obviously I shove, and he did end up tank calling here with the rivered straight, so a little bit of a disrespectful tank, although I can completely actually now understand he has 10 of spades, which is terrible here. That's just like the number one card you don't want to have. So we do, well, he does end up just calling, maybe just expecting me to have enough bluffs, which I am going to have some hands like king 10 double gut shots, and I feel like those hands are probably calls on the turn, given that I don't have reverse implieds to king queen much apart from the one combo king queen of spades, and my 10 is obviously blocking the 10-8, and I've got the nut shot to the queen. So I feel like king 10 would be a reasonable bet call from me, and I can shove that. So I think his call's fine, and obviously my play is fine too. Do pick this one up. Hand number 8, we are playing 20k NL on GG 3-handed. I was definitely not battling this game. There would have been a recreational that left the table shortly before this, and I'm probably just looking to leave very shortly as well. Button is a long-time regular. His name is Sergei Nikiforov. Probably getting his name wrong there. He's Munes star on PokerStars, long-time high-stakes player. Had a very popular podcast with Mechanics of Poker. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with him. One of the most winningest players on WPN for the no limit cash game tables of recent years as well. So doing very well for himself. He opens the button. We 3-bets at 100 effective, and he goes in as a 4-bet. goes ahead and 4-bets, and we call. Nothing to do pre-flop here apart from call. Flop a set, happy days. Not going to have any leads on this texture. Do have less queens and jacks. Admittedly, I do have more straights than him, but for the most part, I'm not really too much of an advocate of finding leads in spots like this where it's definitely not going to be a high frequency. So I just tend to simplify my game plan and find a range check. Button checks back. We see a 5 of hearts turn. I lead out for 40% or 45%. This was a mistake I remember doing in the review. I should have sized up. When you probe the turn here in a 4-bet pot, you are very polarized, as is kind of unsurprisingly very polarized. So B70 is just the right sizing here. Even 50 is a bit too small, because basically you're saying to villain you've got king, queen, or better. So you've got top pair with a redraw or better when he's checked back the flop. Of course, if you bet king, queen, and he shoves, you're not happy about it, but you've not got here with king, queen to bet fold after a check back in a less than 2 SPR. So yeah, B70 is just the way to play here. Don't worry about the SPR being small. Don't worry about being a 4-bet pot. A lot of the time, myself included, I might not want to size up too much because it's a 4-bet pot, like quote unquote, because of the 4-bet pot, I don't want to size up, but that's just kind of a human invention that I've made for myself. The reality is you can size up if you need to, and this is one of those times. So I got the sizing wrong. He shoved, which I was, well, very happy about, obviously. Was a bit surprised to see a shove here. But yeah, we are ultimately very happy. We snap it off, and villain has pocket queens, which I was very upset about. I remember, yeah, just being like, there's a huge sigh. I think this was like in the middle of a big downswing that I was going through as well. In fact, I think this was if this was last year, or probably actually this is 2023. Yeah, I went through pretty rough downswing at this point, and I remember this hand being the catalyst to make me stop playing high stake, at least like nosebleed stakes for some time, because yeah, this one was super painful for me. Lured myself into a false sense of security with a bet that I thought was making a lot of money, a call that I thought was making a lot of money, into immediate, well, zero equity, right? We've got what, 2% equity. So yeah, I just remember like the emotional swing that I had in this hand really plagued me, and I decided to move down after this hand, which was a good decision in hindsight. You shouldn't be playing stakes where you can't deal with the swings, especially in a kind of a standard 100 big blind or 200 big blind 4-bet pot. So yeah, was very, very upset about the result here. As you can expect, right, when you're taking a big shot, the thing that you don't want to see is set under set in a spot that you felt very good about when they check back the flop. So yeah, very unhappy. I think honestly, villain's line is fine as well. I don't think you can range bet this one, and I'm sure queens is mixed. And I think versus big sizing, I think queens does want to shove. It looks a bit silly to check back into shove in position with top set, but I do think this is kind of an exceptional case here where actually it's fine. And obviously my play is fine, apart from the sizing error on the turn. Next hand, we are playing deep at 10 KNL, heads up and GG. I was battling this game. I remember villain is N-Light or Zaz91 on PokerStars, or Viktor Kudinov on GG Poker. He was a very popular player, had a massive upswing. Actually had a massive downswing then upswing. Definitely, I think, a fan favorite to rail. So we're playing the heads up game. We 3-bets, pretty small because we're pretty deep here. I don't like sizing up too much. Our position becomes very, very expensive. You can do different things in ring, but in heads up I typically size down. Villain calls, and we see an interesting king 9-6 two-tone flop with this kind of equity where I've got potentially a lot on future streets, but right now not so much. I like to play very fast. Give me a different hand, like let's say Queen Jack of Spades with a lot more equity, I might do something differently. Just because I don't need to rush money into the pot, my hand's a bit more invulnerable. But with a hand like this, it is quite vulnerable. If I bet and get a fold, it's a great result. And if I improve, then I improve in a big way, typically with this hand. So I like to bet quite fast here. Pretty sure this was solver approved. And villain calls. Moving into an ace turn. Sorry, whoops, went one step ahead of myself there. Well, I see bet turn for B70. And villain calls. This was just the standard play. There's really nothing else you're supposed to do with this hand. I do remember at the time though, or rather after the hand when I was doing my review, I was very surprised to see how much of your range you can see bet here. So yes, we have a combo draw, we have a pretty easy c-bet, but actually if you're arriving here with 7-5 of diamonds, which you would have to pop the flop sometimes, I know it seems horrible, 200 blinds effective to put 20 blinds in with 7-5 of diamonds, but you are supposed to do that some of the time. That would be a pure c-bet on the turn. The ace is an exceptionally good card for you because you can just punt in a bunch of ace spade X as a pot bet with the overcard and backdoor nut flush draw, and villain cannot call. So we have just a bunch of ace X which are asymmetric in our range, and therefore the turn is really, really good for us. So you have a lot of bets. Definitely I was not finding as many bluffs as I was supposed to be doing here. I would have found the more generic ones like this, but I wasn't finding the more punty ones like even 6-5 of diamonds and things like that. Villain calls and we move into the river, Queen of Spades. Now, the discussion on the turn that I just mentioned was very relevant on the river because I was not going to be arriving with so many what I would have considered counterintuitive bluffs, like the 7-5 of diamonds. Maybe not counterintuitive, but unintuitive. So on the river, I remember thinking, yes, my hearts are not ideal here, but I did pot the flop, so he's not going to have that many hearts. I call the flop here backdoor hearts for the sizing and the flop there. So I didn't consider my hearts that bad. Of course, they're the worst suit, but what else can I have here? And on the river, my Queen Jack, Queen 10 make a pair, so I probably shut down, beating some of in positions 9x of hearts. Then I completed my Jack 10, and obviously my spade draws, my main draws here complete. So I considered this a pretty good river overall, and went ahead for the full amount here, and shoved 13k effective. This was a massive torch. I think this is probably the biggest mistake of the hands today, mainly because of the turn discussion where I can just shove all of my 7-5 of diamonds instead and 6-5 of diamonds, and then therefore, because I've got those hands to shove, I can give up my 7-5 of hearts. So yeah, this ends up being a pretty massive error. Villain called, I forget what he called with actually. He called with, oh, there's the nuts, okay, that makes some sense. So yeah, unsurprisingly, Villain played it fine. My hand was perfect until the river. Pre-flop raise is fine, flop bet is fine, turn bet is fine. In fact, they're just the most common lines. River play is a complete torch, need to be shoving different hands that I wouldn't have had. So important to note here, the other hands are supposed to find, I wouldn't have had. So in isolation, my strategy was probably, my hand might have been not losing that much, but I should have just found more hands in the turn and then given this hand up. So interesting hand. I wonder what you guys think about this one. If you are curious, or if you are feeling, Jahan will just kind of skip back there and cut that out. I want to say to them, interesting hand. I wonder what you guys think. Leave a comment below. So yeah, I'll say that now. So yeah, interesting hand. I wonder what you guys think. Leave a comment below letting me know your thoughts, if you would agree or disagree with my play here and anything else that I might have not discussed. Hand number 6, we are against the man himself, believe it or not, Linus Love or Linus Loeliger. I cannot guarantee if I'm against him. I can't go back in time now and check. But I remember it being against him. Now, if on the off chance Linus is watching this video and can say otherwise, then I'll stand corrected, but I'm pretty sure I'm against him. He goes ahead and opens mid position to 2.2, and I 3-bet. This is quite similar to the first hand. This is my small 3-bet in position strategy. Folds around to him, and he 4-bets, and we call. Seeing a flop, 10-4-3 diamonds. I remember learning a lot in this hand. In fact, I feel like when you're playing poker against really strong opposition, or just the best player in the world, and you're playing for big stakes, you learn more than you would ordinarily do versus a more standard opponent at smaller stakes. You end up looking into each hand more in detail and trying to pick up exactly where you're going right and wrong. So I remember learning a lot in this hand. Linus goes ahead and bets quarter pot. This is actually even a bit small. You can probably bet bigger for your entire range, but hey, I'm not here to criticize Linus. He knows a lot more than I do. Probably has got a lot more reasons for this than I would have as well. So facing a quarter pot here, I went ahead and raised, which raised small, around 27% of the pot. I remember thinking at the time that this was just kind of the standard play. I've got obviously 2 overs to the 10, flush draw, and backdoor straight, and immediate blockers to queens and jacks. So it felt like a really intuitive raising hand and raising situation. But it turns out that, and perhaps to a lot of viewers as well, they would expect this to be the kind of the standard option. Maybe they would shove and not raise small, but perhaps raising is the best option here. It turns out though that in these situations when you're in position and you kind of lack all of the good hands here, the only hand that I can see that we've got more then out of position is probably pocket jacks. When it comes to aces and kings and even ace king suited, we are at a net negative here. We're going to have some hands, but villain's going to have more. So you create a negative asymmetry, or not you, but like the situation has a negative asymmetry in all of the good hands that might want to raise. Also, let's face it, if you've got pocket tens here that we might have more than the other position player, we don't want to raise pocket tens. So just because you've got a hand more than the other player doesn't mean that you'd want to do that. And if you don't want to do that, which is raising, then it wouldn't really play a part of your raising incentive, right? If you're not going to raise pocket tens, and you can't raise queen jack saying you've got pocket tens, it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, the only hand that we might have here more than him is jacks, but then we've got net negative of queens, kings, aces, ace, king, etc. So yeah, we haven't really got a reason to raise the spot very often. Now, that's not to say that you cannot raise, you definitely can. But I was raising this hand pretty often thinking it's a standard spot, where in reality, your whole entire raising range is less than 5%. In fact, it's probably closer to like 3 or 2. And you know what, when it's against like one of the best players in the world, and you're raising like 2 or 3% with your entire range, it's probably just best to not do it and keep things simple. So I remember learning a lot that basically on these kind of textures, you don't raise much because you haven't got much of a reason to. Anyway, I do go ahead and raise, he calls. Turn was a 10 of hearts. I went ahead and c-bet for all in. Two things. Firstly, you don't have to shove. You can size down here. This is about 60 into 80. It's a little bit unnecessary. Obviously, my jacks could shove, but if I had aces, would I really need to shove here? I don't think so. And secondly, my hand should just be checked very, very often here, for the reasons that if out of position has jacks and queens, he usually just shoves the flop out of position. So I don't actually block queens and jacks anymore. So this was a sizing error, and I would say an action error as well. I should just check instead of betting here. So I made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot. Mainly no raise on flop, and then if I'm in position here, consider your blockers. Your blockers to queens and jacks were effective on the flop and not really on the turn. So yeah, butchered this hand all round here. I don't think I'm losing too many effective dollars, but I just believe the way I played the hand's a little bit imprecise. I could play a lot better here, which would just be to smooth call the flop, and if I did raise, check back the turn or size down. So probably not blundering so many dollars, but blundering strategy is how I would describe it. Linus does call with aces, and we do take one of them down at least. We get some money back for our troubles, which is, yeah, better than zero, but a little bit of a torture all around for me. Hey everyone, that wraps up part 1 of reviewing my biggest hands of online poker. Make sure to tune in for part 2, where we will be reviewing the final 5 biggest hands I've ever played. If you did enjoy the video, please do make sure to leave the video a like, and a subscription to the channel does go a long way. Anyway, it's been myself, Lou Johnson, for Know Your Poker. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye for now.